Our correspondent Dominic Schwartz joins us now from Tauranga. Dominic Schwartz, first of all, am I pronouncing that place correctly? Is it Tauranga?
Tauranga.
Tauranga,
Very close.
Thank you. Hard for me to get my mouth around the New Zealand stuff sometimes. Now, look, we're expecting some poor weather overnight, which was going to hamper the salvage operation. What happened overnight, Dominic?
Well, the good news is that the Rena is still holding together. It has that large gash on the side, and there are always fears that it might break up even in the slightest of seas. There were up to 4-metre swells overnight and winds of up to 55 kilometres an hour, but the Rena is still holding together. What did happen though, Virginia, is that they had to stop the pumping operations. What they're trying to do is to get as much oil off of that ship and onto a barge which they have connected up with a hose before the ship breaks up. What happened is that they had to, at 11 o'clock last night, disconnect that hose and move the barge away so that it didn't slam into the ship. Now, they managed to get around about 90 tonnes of oil off of the ship before that happened. To give you an idea, there's still another 1,200 to go, so it's a major operation. And this is not a simple thing of reconnecting the hose. They're heading out again today to try and do that, but it's very complex. It takes a lot of time. So every time they have to stop the pumping operation, it's a long time before they can get started again, but they do hope to do that today.
Yes, indeed. And as I was mentioning earlier, as I understand it, because that fuel has gone cold, it's thick, it's sludgy. I think someone described it as almost clay-like, and therefore it's actually very difficult to pump. That pumping takes a long, long time.
It does indeed. It is a very thick substance. Some people described it as a bit like Marmite or Vegemite. It's tar-like, it's thick. There was some talk at some stage that they might try and get steam actually into that oil to try and make it more runny, but that's a very complex operation. At this stage, the salvage operation has said that what they're going to try and do is reconnect that hose and keep pumping. Now, you have to imagine this ship is on a 20-degree list, so even doing anything on board the ship is very dangerous, and they are using oxy cutters to try and cut their way into the tanks and to help with the operations. You've got fumes there, so it's very dangerous as well as complex. So they are hoping to, as I say, resume that pumping operation today and get more oil out.
And Dominic, as we look at that extraordinary footage of those stacked up containers leaning at amazing angles off the craft, and we know that some of those containers have actually fallen off the vessel, is there going to be any attempt to try and salvage some of those containers and some of the stuff that might be inside that people have sent across the world, or are they just giving up on that altogether?
Well, the Mediterranean Shipping Company, which chartered the Rena, is, we understand, sending an official to Tauranga today, so we might get some answers on that. But at the moment, in terms of the salvage operation and Maritime New Zealand, what they're concentrating on is trying to get the oil off the ship. That's the most important thing, because obviously if the ship breaks up and 1,300 tonnes of oil goes into the sea, that is a major disaster. It's already an ecological disaster here, but that would just be dreadful. So that's the main thing. And obviously with the containers, it's a concern if the containers come off and they're a danger to shipping. We did see the port of Tauranga closed for a part of a day because they were concerned about the shipping containers. A lot of them that have come off, there's been about 80 that have come off, have sunk. But really, in terms of the containers, they're not so concerned about it. But as I say, we might hear more of that today when the Mediterranean Shipping Company fronts up down here.
Dominic Schwartz, good to talk to you again. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Virginia.